All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and evaluate the unit circle. And so what I want to do is evaluate all the angles. And you see, we're going to go through every single point here on the unit circle, as well as the 6 trigonometric functions. So evaluating the unit circle is one of the things that I think a lot of students sometimes they feel overwhelmed with because they feel like they have to memorize everything apart on the unit circle. And that is simply not the truth. So what I want to do in this video is just kind of show you some ways that I like to evaluate the unit circle. Also like to teach my students how to evaluate the unit circle and some ways that you can kind of like remember to be able to do this, because eventually like the purpose of doing the unit circle is to be able to do it quickly, right? So the main thing I think we are going to want to know is these 3 coordinate points in the first quadrant, as well as these points here, which are going to intersect all of the intercepts of the x and the y axis, right? So here's the x axis, here's the y axis. So let's go ahead and list a label here, these couple points. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of work through like the teaching here of these points, and then, or at least of a couple angles, but then we'll also try to do things rather quickly. So I think it's mainly important though, if you're going to be evaluating the unit circle, you have to know these points, okay? You have to know these. So the first one are these 3 coordinate points. So this is going to be square root of 3 over 2, comma half. This one is going to be the square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. And this point is going to be 1/2, comma, square root of 3 over 2. All right, now if you want to understand where those points came from, there's a lot of great videos, including from myself maybe, that show you how to find those points. All right. Then the other points that I think you need to know is where these intersect. So this is going to be at 1, 0, right? Because again, you have the unit circle with the radius of 1. And so that's going to intersect here at these coordinate points. That's a -1. And so here it'd be -1, 0. All right, and then this one is going to be a 0, 1. Okay, so those are the main points that I think all students should be able to know. All right, so now when we're saying t is equal to 0, what this represents is this is going to be the angle, okay? So the angle at 0, so you can see here, 0 would be like 0 radians or 0 degrees, doesn't really matter. You can think about it in either way in this case, even though it is radians, not degrees. But anyways, you can see, all right, what is this coordinate point? You can see the coordinate point is 1, 0. So as we're going to go through this, I think it'd be helpful maybe to like write this down here, just to remember that when you're dealing with your trigonometric functions, the sine of an angle is going to represent, now again, this is only when you have coordinate points that are on the unit circle, okay? So don't do this when you have points that are not on the unit circle. Only when you have a coordinate point on the unit circle, sine is going to be represented by the y coordinate. Cosine of your angle is going to be represented by the x coordinate. Tangent of your angle is going to be represented as your y over your x. Okay, so you need to know that. The next thing we also need to make sure we know is going to be the reciprocal functions. So cosecant of t is going to be 1 over y. Secant of t is going to equal 1 over x. And let's see, cotangent of t is going to equal a x over a y. Okay, so now let's get into it. So sine is going to represent the y coordinate. That's going to be 0. Cosine is the x coordinate, is 1. Tangent is going to be y over x. That's going to be a 0 over a 1. So therefore, that is going to be a 0. And actually, to make this a little bit easier, because I'm going to talk my way through it, I'm going to write the coordinate point right here. Because some of these problems are not going to be as easy as this one. Okay, we're going to have to do a little bit of math. So I will show you what to do for those as we get to them. Now let's just go and do the reciprocals. So again, the easy way to think about this is like, if you have sine is 0 and then you do 1 over 0, well, that's going to be undefined, right? Because you cannot not divide by 0. If the cosine is 1, then 1 over 1 is going to equal 1. And if you have tangent is 0 of 1, so again, tangent is going, or cotangent is going to be be x over 0, so it'd be a 1 over 0, which again is also going to be an undefined. Okay, so now let's get into our first angle here, which is going to be t equals pi over 6. So that is going to be the first angle right here. All right, that is going to be your first angle. So again, we're going to do the exact same thing, ladies and gentlemen. So now I'm going to write in this coordinate point, which is going to be a square root of 3, comma 1/2. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the sine, which is going to be the y coordinate. So that's going to be 1/2. The cosine is going to be the x coordinate, so it's square root of 3 over 2. And the y over the x, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this math over here, all right? Because again, once you do the math once, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to keep on doing this, all right? And that's going to be the important thing is like, and that's why a lot of times I tell students to keep on practicing doing this stuff. Because if you guys can practice going through doing this math, it becomes easy. You don't really need to memorize anything. It's just you've done so many examples of these that you're good. So let's go ahead and do the let's go and see. So y over x, that'd be a 1/2 divided by a square root of 3 over 2. Okay, so in this case, what's going to happen is the 2's, you can divide those out. You can multiply by 2 over 2 on top and the bottom, either way. So that's going to be a 1 over square root of 3. And then what I'm going to do is rationalize the denominator here. So I'm going to multiply, you know, I'm just going to show my work. You guys probably want that, right? You might as well. I mean, I don't know if you're clicking or still watching this video, you're like, oh, well, where are you getting these? So, it's, you know, let's just do a little math here. So you multiply 2 on the top and bottom. That's going to give you a 1 over the square root of 3. Then let's rationalize the denominator. So multiply by square root of 3 on the top and bottom. And therefore, now that's going to give me a final answer of a square root of 3 over 3. Okay, so whenever we see a 1/2 over square root of 3 over 3, we know what that answer is. Okay, it's going to be right there. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So that's going to be a square root of 3 over 3. All right, now the cosecant. Again, guys, reciprocate this, right? Reciprocate it. So now in this case, we just have a 2 over 1, or reciprocate what's, 1/2 over 2. You can just flip it. So this will be a 2 over 1, which is just going to be a 2. Now in this case, we're going to want to reciprocate that. So let's go and figure out this one. So let's see, that'd be a 2 over a square root of 3. Again, ladies and gentlemen, just rationalize the denominator here. That's going to be a square root of 3 over square root of 3. And that is just going to equal here a 2 square root of 3. And then square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just going to be a 3. Okay, so we figured out another one. So this would be a 2 square root of 3 over 3. And then in this next one here, I'm going to kind of draw a line here because this one's not that bad. Actually, let's do the line there. So the next one now is going to have an x over y, right? So if tangent is y over x, then cotangent is going to be an x over y. So that one is going to be, let's go ahead and write it in there. So that'd be a square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, you can multiply by 2 on the top and bottom, right? So come on, don't, oops, okay, stop. So multiply by 2 on the top and on the bottom, and therefore you're just going to be left with now a square root of 3. Right? Make sure it's still on there. Okay, yeah, still is good. Okay, cool. So therefore that answer is square root of 3. Again, we're going to do this once, and I'm not going to do it again. So I might have to scroll up because I might have forgot, but we'll be okay. At least these ones is going to be not too bad. We can do a lot of these in our head. So not all of them, though. So the next angle is going to be a pi over 4. So sine is going to be the y-coordinate. So you see the y-coordinate, square root of 2 over 2. Cosine is going to be x-coordinate, square root of 2 over 2. And tangent is y over x. Well, again, guys, they're exactly the same, right? Anything divided by itself is just going to be a 1. And guess what? That's the same thing for cotangent, right? It doesn't matter if it's y over x or x over y. Now, in this one, we're probably going to want to do the math here just to go and see what we have. So if I was going to flip this, right? And again, you can just you don't have to do 1 over square root of 2 over 2. You can, but the same thing is 1 over square root of 2 over 2 is the same thing. Let me just rewrite it like this. 1 divided by the square root of 2 over 2 is the same thing if you were to multiply by the reciprocal on top and bottom as 2 over square root of 2. Okay, so just remember, 1 over y is the same thing as y over 1. So you can just also think about this as multiplying by the reciprocal or just flipping this over. Then what I'm now going to do is multiply by the square root of 2 over 2. And let's see, that's going to be equal to a square root of 2. Okay, so that is going to be my cosecant. And guess what? That's the same thing for the secant, right? So those are just going to be in there as well. All right, so now let's go and get to pi over 3. So pi over 3 is going to be our last one. Now you can see that these are going to be very similar, right? I forgot to write in these points. Sorry about that. So this one's going to be a square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. All right. So let's go to this point. Now, again, if you check my unit circle, you should have this memorized. This is going to be pi over 3, all right? And again, these are only the 3 angles, guys. I'm just going over what I need you to know at this point. So this point is going to be a 1/2, comma, square root of 3 over 2, because you're not going to have the unit circle anymore. See how we're moving down? We're not going to have this unit circle any longer. So we're going to have to go off some memory here. So the y-coordinate is going to be square root of 3 over 2. X-coordinate is going to be a 1/2. Now we have square root of 3 over 2 over 1/2, right? And so we got to think, what is that going to be? Square root of 3 over 2 over 1/2. Well, hopefully you recognize that's going to be square root of 3, right? We did the math over here. Didn't we? Yeah, right here. So we did the math over here. So just remember, the more practice you get with this, the better you're going to get. Cosecant. So again, we're just going to be flipping these over. So if I have, this is going to be a 2. If you have 1 over square root of 3 over 2, which we did here, right? Didn't we just do this one? No. Yeah, we did this one right here. 2 square root of 3 over 3. So this will be a 2 square root of 3 over 3, right? We already did the math. This one's just going to be reciprocal 2. And then this one's cotangent be 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2. That is going to be a square root of 3 over 3. All right, and then 1/2. Now this one's nice and easy, right? Know these points. Remember, guys, you should know this point very, very quickly. 0, 1. So now we can just go through this again. Sine is 1. Cosine is 0. Tangent is 1 over 0, so that's undefined. Cosecant is going to be the reciprocal, so that's going to be a 1. The reciprocal, undefined. The reciprocal here, so tangent is y over x. Then this one's going to be x over y. So 0 over 1, which is just going to be a 0. Which makes me think, did I make a mistake over here? That's going to be 1 over 0, right? And then, yeah, that's fine. 1, 1. Yeah. Why are these both 0? So this is x and this is y, right? 1 over y, 1 over 0 is undefined. And then 0 over 1. I guess I maybe never noticed that. Right? Or did I make a mistake here? I'm like losing my mind. Let's go ahead and check this out here. Okay. So sine is y, right? 1 over y is going to be undefined. Tangent is y over x, which is 0. Cotangent, which would be x over y, which is going to be undefined. So that's undefined, that's 0. Cosine's 1. Secant is 1. Sine would be y, and then cosecant is 1 over y. That's good. And then over here, we have 1 cosecant. This one's going to be 0. Secant is going to be 0. Tangent, I think tangent is going to be y over x. So it's 1 over 0, and this would be 0 over 1. Yeah, okay, good. All right, so now let's go and get into 2/3. So now let's go and get to some fast problems, and let's go and get over it. So all I want you to recognize here, guys, is that this point is just a reflection of this point in the second quadrant, right? You can see here, I'm just reflecting it across, right? So it's the exact same coordinate point. It's now in the second quadrant, though. So that means the x coordinate is going to be a negative. So it's going to be a negative 1/2, comma, square root of 3 over 2. All right, so now let's go and go through it. So sine is going to be square root of 3 over 2. Cosine is going to be a negative 1/2. Tangent, square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, right? You guys got it? You guys got it? You guys got it? That is going to be a negative square root of 3, right? So remember, this actually might be helpful for you guys as well. Tangent, everything is positive. Positive, positive. Second quadrant. Actually, let's do it over here. You guys should know this map. This will be helpful for you. So here, tangent, everything's first quadrant, everything's positive. Second quadrant, the x coordinate is negative, y coordinate is positive. Third quadrant, everything's negative. And the fourth quadrant, the y is negative. Okay, so make sure you guys know that. That can be very helpful for you as we're doing this. All right, we're not even out of the second quadrant yet. This is getting there. Okay. Am I doing these in red? Yeah, I'll do these in red. Okay, so now let's go and do this. So this is going to be 1 over this. So this would be a 2 square root of 3 over 2. But again, it's the y coordinate, so it's positive. Secant is going to be negative. So this is going to be a negative 2. And then cotangent, again, like just think about this. This is going to be a negative square root of 3 over 3, right? So because it's, yeah, the 2's are divided out negative. This would be x over y, right? Very good. All right, so 3 over 4, again, just think about it. It's the pi over 4, but switched over to the second quadrant, right? This is what I want you, this is what I need you to understand here. All this is this point, which we found, square root of 2 over 2, but now it's in the second quadrant. So it's over here, all right? So this coordinate point is negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, positive square root of 2 over 2, right? We know that cosine, secant, tangent, and cotangent are all going to be negative. So we can do that from the beginning. So the sine is going to be square root of 2 over 2. Cosecant is going to be, was it just the square root of 2, right? And then cosine is going to be negative. I already did that. Square root of 2 over 2. Secant is going to be square root of 2. And then a tangent is going to be a negative 1, and that's going to be a negative 1. All right. Tangent 5 pi over 6. Again, this is just a reflection of your original point, right? So we had pi over 6 over here. So 5 pi over 6, ladies and gentlemen, is just a reflection over. Notice here, the important thing that I want you to recognize about this is that these reference angles are exactly the same, right? When I have these points here, this angle, right? How far is this angle from the x-axis? This is what we call our reference angle. this angle is going to be pi over 6. Well, guess what this angle is? Pi over 6, right? It's pi over 6 away from all the way around the circle, which is pi. Or I'm sorry, halfway around the circle, which is pi. So again, that would be 6 pi over 6. So if you're one short, it's going to be a 5 pi over 6. All right, so we have 5 pi over 6. So therefore, my coordinate point here is, again, negative square root of 3 over 2, comma, 1/2. All right, so we know our cosines, our secants are negative, our tangents are negative, and our cosines are negative. So we have our sine, which is 1/2. Cosecant is going to be 2. Again, try to do these on your own. See if you can do these faster than me. You probably can. And also, you might be able to see if I make a mistake, because mentally, this is going to be very taxing on me, talking my way through and doing it. I've never done this actually before. So even in my classroom, I would never do something like this. It's not really not really great use of time from this, because most students actually can kind of figure it out. Once you kind of get the pattern, go ahead and figure it out. Go ahead and see what you can do. So cosine is negative square root of 3 over 2. This would be 2 square root of 3 over 3. Tangent is going to be a square root of 3 over 3. And then the cotangent is going to be a square root of 3. Now, one thing I want you to recognize here, another relationship here. Notice the relationship or the difference here between the pi over 3 and pi over 6. I didn't mention this before. But see how these are reciprocals of each other, right? Tangent square root of 3, cotangent square root of 3. So these are just not reciprocals of each other. Sorry about that. They're, I guess we would say, let's say inverses of each other. I guess I have to look at, but see how they're swapped, right? So they're just the differences of each other from in this grid. Like sine is square root of 3 over 2, cosine's 1/2. Now cosine's 1/2 square root of 3 over 2, right? So you can kind of go through memory on that. But again, my goal in this video is to, like, if you go through all these problems, you're going to have these pretty well memorized. And you're probably not going to ever have to think about this or do this again if you do it. Not if you just watch me do it. You got to do it. All right, the next one, tangent, that's pi. That's halfway around the circle, right? So I'm going to draw a little picture here and say, all right, that point is negative 1, 0. I like negative 1, 0. All right, I like these points. Oh, actually, that's okay. All right. I was thinking about something else. Sine is 0, so this is undefined. Cosine is negative 1. So secant, again, is also going to be negative 1, right? 1 over negative 1 is negative 1. Tangent, which is y over x, which is going to be 0. Cotangent, which is negative 1 over 0, which is going to be undefined. All right, next one, 7 pi over 6. Remember how I said pi over 6 was, 5 pi over 6 was one short of halfway around the circle? Well, 7 pi over 6 is one more pi over 6, right? So if you're to think about this like graphing, halfway around the circle is pi, or 6 pi over 6, and then we're just going to go an extra pi over 6. Okay, so what I want you guys to recognize here, let's kind of go back to here. Now, what we're doing is we're going an extra pi over 6. But again, I want you guys to see this relationship that's going on here, right? See how this is a direct reflection? I'm actually going to eliminate these. See what I want you to do? I want you guys to see this is a direct reflection. I'll just do it on this point. This is a direct reflection of this point, right? So again, it's this coordinate point. It's the same distance away from the x-axis, right? So the coordinate point here is going to be square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. But now it's in the third quadrant. And what do we know about the third quadrant? Negative, negative. All right, so that's important. So now as we're going to do this problem, we know sine's negative. We know cosecant's going to be negative. We know cosine's negative. We know secant's negative. But when we're doing y over x or x over y, negative over negative, guys, is a positive. You're right. So we have a sine. So let's go and figure out what this coordinate point is then going to be. So this is going to be a negative square root of 3 over 2, comma a negative 1/2. Okay, so but make sure you guys can draw the picture where this graph should be. Let's see maybe if I can steal this graph. There you go, put it down there. Okay, so let's go and figure this one out. So sine is going to be 1/2. Cosecant is going to be a 2. Cosine is going to be a square root of 3 over 2. Secant is going to be a 2 square root of 3 over 2. Tangent is going to be a square root of 3 over 3. And cotangent is going to be, oops, that's a negative. Oh, no, it is a positive. You're right. And positive is going to be a square root of 3. I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm talking to myself. It was like I was like having a video, or like we're sitting next to each other and I'm helping you with your math homework. So let's look at the next one, pi over 4. So again, this is going to be pi over 4, but now it's a reflection, right? So you're supposed to know this point, pi over 4. So this one's just going to be a reflection. Okay, so again, everything's negative in the third quadrant. Tangent and cotangent are going to be positive. So the coordinate point here is square root of 2 over 2. That's not it. The point is a negative square root of 2 over 2, comma negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so we have square root of 2 over 2, and we know 1 over square root of 2 is just going to be a square root of 2. We have cosine square root of 2 over 2. Secant is going to be square root of 2. Then we have the tangent, which is going to be a positive 1. Cotangent will be a positive 1. That one's kind of simple, right? Same thing that's going on here. Here's your pi over 3. So our new pi over 3 is going to be right there, right? There's your angle. Never kind of show that. Oh, that's what it was. Okay. So this coordinate point here is going to be a negative 1/2 negative square root of 3 over 2. Right? Because this point up here, guys, is positive 1/2 positive square root of 3 over 2. Just like this one. This one's positive 1/2 positive square root of 2 over 2, comma positive square root of 2 over 2. And this point right here is positive square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. But once you flip it all, bring it all the way down to the third quadrant, that's why we make things negative. So sine is going to be negative square root of 3 over 2. Hopefully you're pretty good at this now. Negative 2 square root of 3 over 3. Cosine is going to be negative 1/2. Secant is going to be negative 2. And this is going to be positive 1, positive 1. Ooh, getting a little faster. Square root of 3 over 2. So these are going to be in halves, right? So we have 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves. All right. So again, that's going to be the coordinate point 0, comma negative 1. Okay. 0, comma negative 1, 0, comma negative 1, 0, comma negative 1, 0, comma negative 1. So sine is going to be a negative 1. Cosecant is negative 1. Cosine is 0. Secant is undefined. Tangent is going to be negative 1 over 0. So negative 1 over 0. That's undefined. What am I writing that down? Come on. That's going to be undefined. Cotangent is going to be 0 over negative 1, which is going to be a 0. 5 pi over 3. Before I get to that, let's do 11 pi over 6 because I want to kind of get to this. One last thing here. Again, let's do this one. Again, let's revert back to let's do red again. So again, notice here, guys, right? So here's 11 pi over 6, right? Because 12 pi over 6 would be 2 pi, right? 12 pi over 6 would be 2 pi, which is all the way around the circle. So if we're at 11 pi over 6, that means we're pi over 6 short. So again, it's going to be the same coordinate point, square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2, but it's in the fourth quadrant. Therefore, the y coordinate has to be negative, right? Look at there. X is positive, y is negative. So when I'm doing 11 pi over 6, that is going to have my coordinate point of square root of 3 over 2, comma negative 1/2. Okay, but let's do it in order here. So, but I want to make you to recognize here at 5 pi over 3 is going to be right here, right? I didn't do these. Should have done that. These are the other points we did. This was 7 pi over 6. This is going to be a 5 pi over 4. And this would be a 5 pi over 4. What is it? 5 pi over 3? No, not 5 pi over 3. What was it? 4 pi over 3? Yeah, 4 pi over 3. This one is 5 pi over 3. All right. So again, it's the same coordinate point of up here, but now the y coordinate is just negative. So same coordinate point, just y is negative. Okay. So you got to know what the quadrant is in and you got to know the signs, but you just got to know these coordinate points, guys. And like, that's it. Like, know those coordinate points and then know how to like figure out where the angle is and you're good. A lot of times we also call these like the reference angle. So if you know the reference angle, that's going to tell you what the coordinate point is. And then you just need to know the quadrant that it's in. All right. Good for the sidebar. Now let's go and finish this problem. So we're going to go back to red. So this coordinate point here, right there. Okay. And that is going to have the coordinate point of positive 1/2, comma negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay. So my sine, so this one's different. This is in the fourth quadrant. So now sine is going to be negative, cosine's positive, and tangent and cotangent are both going to be negative. So my sine is going to be a square root of 3 over 2. Cosecant is going to be a 2 square root of 3 over 3, right? I almost have this like memorized here. Cosine is 1/2, secant is 2. Tangent is going to be a negative square root of 3. And cotangent now is going to be a negative square root of 3 over 3, right? See how fast and easy this is going? 7 pi over 4, same thing, guys. It's going to be the first coordinate point of pi over 4, but now it's in the fourth quadrant. So therefore, this is square root of 2 over 2, comma, negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay. So now we know, again, that the sine here is going to be put it right there. Okay. So now we know that's a sine and cosecant and tangent cotangent are going to be negative. So sine would be a negative square root of 2 over 2. Cosecant is going to be 1 over negative square root of 2 over 2, which is going to just be a negative square root of 2, right? And notice those both have to be negative, right? Because they're dealing with the y-coordinate. Cosine is going to be square root of 2 over 2. Secant is going to be square root of 2. Tangent is going to be negative 1. And cotangent is going to be a positive 1. We already figured out this angle. We just need to kind of do it. Look at, see, I noticed that. Don't make a mistake, right? That's a negative. That has to be negative. X over y and y over x are both going to give us a negative. T equals 11 pi over 6. Okay, so we have a negative 1/2. And again, we actually already know, like, these are just going to be reciprocals of this one, right? Right? I mean, obviously, they have the name signs, but cosine is going to be a positive square root of 3 over 2. This one's a 2 square root of 3 over 3. I don't know why I wrote 2. Tangent here is going to be a, let's see, that's a negative square root of 3 over 3. And cotangent is going to be a negative square root of 3. Okay, they both have to be negative, and look, those should be swapped, right? Oh, I did 8 pi equals 2. That was, why would I do that? I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so let's have 2 pi. Well, that's going to be all the way around the circle, right? So if we go all the way around the circle, ladies and gentlemen, we are back to where we started. So 2 pi is going to be the exact same thing as 0. So it's going to be comma, or t is equal to 2 pi. So I'm not even going to waste your time, because we know we could just take all of these answers and we could input them back in here. Now, if we have a radian that is not in there, we'd have to find the points on the inner circle, which are not going to be some nice, easy numbers to work with. So I don't even know why I included this. It's probably not going to be on the document that you are going to be able to download if that is something you're interested in. But hopefully, if this video gave you some value, you understand now how to use the unit circle, then you are going to absolutely love the video that I have for you next. Cheers.